Listen, I wanted to start out just by asking, what is SpotXchange these days?
Yeah, actually get that question a lot from industry folks, and they usually follow it with, and limit it to 5 words, right? Because you get an explanation that runs on forever. We're essentially a video advertising platform for publishers. So we want to help the supply side transact any way, any type, and any approach that the buy side may have. So really unifying, I know it's an overused word, but a programmatic transaction, a traditional direct sold buy, an ad tag from an ad network, a raw asset, right? All of those things holistically managed in one system across all screens. That's our overarching vision.
And what does that really mean? So I mean, you're a user sitting in front of a console somewhere. What are you actually doing?
Yeah, I mean, inside of the digital ecosystem alone, a lot of publishers have struggled with legacy systems in that they don't support the modern buying styles, as we call them. So as buyers have begun to change their approach, the legacy systems, even the strategy, the folks inside the organizations, quite frankly, aren't set up to accommodate those style buys. So we've, for the most part, bolted into traditional ad serving systems and given folks another platform in order to transact that way. Of course, it's a little cumbersome because now, you know, these users are operating in multiple systems, not to mention we're talking just about video. If you bake in display and mobile, and let's not even go to TV, right? It's entirely sort of siloed systems. So that's been a big challenge in the digital ecosystem, and we are continuing to move up the funnel. Our company started as purely a programmatic marketplace, so helping buyers and sellers transact. We moved about 2 years ago into more of a platform positioning exclusively on the supply side, so we don't build demand side technology. It's not part of what we do or we envision doing. And now we're continuing to move upstream to be that holistic inventory management platform, not just focusing in the programmatic world.
So you must see a lot of different strategies from a publisher perspective. You know, we certainly, from our perspective, we've seen digital publishers have a hard couple of years in terms of justifying their value proposition. So if you put yourself, let's say you were to move today from SpotXchange to running a publisher group, what kind of best practices would you take with you?
Yeah, I actually came from the publishing side, and at that point I thought we were pretty advanced on the programmatic front. We've encountered some publishers, especially internationally, that are even more advanced. But some of the really interesting stuff, if you look at the traditional model, right, it's let's sell everything we can up front through a traditional direct sales model, and then whatever's left, let's push into our SSP platform or exchange environments. What's really interesting now is we're hearing the strategy around putting programmatic first from major broadcasters and premium publishers. So, and if you really think about the economics, it does make sense. Buyers are willing to put a premium in order to transact that way and get the advanced targeting and efficiency that they're looking for. So that's been a really exciting concept that we've been.
So when you say put programmatic first, and I'm going to come back to getting fined for saying programmatic,
we're
right?
Using it a lot.
But when you say putting programmatic first, does that mean putting targeting first, or does that mean putting kind of the dynamic ad insertion aspects of it first?
I think it's both. I think in the long run, they're going to have to be interchangeable. I think you're still going to have traditional upfront buys. I think you're going to have that sort of advanced real-time ad decisioning, right, focused around first or third-party data. You're going to have both of those things. And our vision as a holistic platform is for those things to come together seamlessly, to be able to transact however, whenever you'd like as a publisher. In reality, when you talk about the big premium publishers and broadcasters, in many cases they're forced to use those multiple systems, so they have to pick an order. So it's interesting to hear the conversation where that traditional order gets switched and more of the programmatic executions are actually happening first.
Is it just the system driving this? Is this cultural, in other words, is the system and the culture driving us to do this, or are people really just are they actually understanding the business implications of it, or is it being forced by the other two factors?
I think the systems are forcing folks to pick an order, but I do think eventually, as mentioned, that they're going to be forced to intermingle, whether that's deeper integrations between platforms, whether that's platforms that offer a more holistic solution, which is our long-term vision. I think you're going to have those things sort of come together and work together instead of picking one or the other.
How do things like sponsorships fit into that?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I think that may, for the foreseeable future, stick within the sort of traditional execution model, and maybe that's not one of the things that moves very quickly over to the programmatic approach, although it's not impossible. To do a sort of data or audience targeted sponsorship is certainly feasible.
So I'll come back to a publisher then. You're still facing these different systems, and you're moving fast in this, but certainly it's going to take a while, right, to get there. What do you do first then?
In terms of
changing your model, what's the first thing you do?
It's certainly an overarching strategy. So having come from the publishing world, the people need to be thinking about things appropriately and quite frankly need to understand how this world works. Traditional media executions are very different from a data-focused, real-time ad decision execution. So if the folks in the organization are not really aware or understand how that works, that can be a big roadblock. Obviously, there's the technology conversation. So I think there's just multiple variables that need to come into play. And let's not kid each other. It's a big overhaul for publishers, right? It's not something that's easy. It's not something that's quick, and it's going to take time. But I think most of the publishers that we talk to now are certainly at least paying attention to and embracing the strategy, where in video 3 or 4 years ago, it was definitely an afterthought, if it was even a thought at all.
So let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about the RTL arrangement. They own a controlling stake, I believe now.
Yeah,
right?
65%. The RTL partnership has been great for us. So just to add some context, they made a 9-figure investment in SpotXchange last year. It did a few things for us. One, it gets us closer to TV. Right, so there's been a lot of announcements and news around TV with a supply side perspective. It really gives us a blueprint of how a technology or a platform like ours can really fit into that world and how we can help the ecosystem, specifically the supply side. It's really helped our expansion efforts in Europe. Europe is as big a market, or it should be as big a market as the US for us. It's just a lot more fragmented, so you have different cultures, language barriers. So having a company work with us that has a great expertise in the European region has been a big help for us. And they also own Fremantle, for example, which is a well-known premium content producer and distributor. So when you start talking about traditionally broadcast content coming online, sort of distribution efforts, we've got a lot of insight into where we would fit in down the road in that type of ecosystem as well. So they've been a great partner to us, and hopefully we're bringing more of that digital experience to a traditional linear television or broadcast company.